and gentlemen, it is 2 o'clock. We are at the historic
It's
zoning.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, I'm sorry. I'm looking over there. That says 2. My phone says 3, but that says 2.
It does,
Sorry.
it does say 2.
It is 3 o'clock. We're at the Historic Zoning Commission and Common Design Review Board. It is March the 24th. I will call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I feel like a midget standing there, y'all.
In front of you, you have the minutes from the February 24th meeting. You'll take a look at them, see if you have any additions and/or deletions. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
What? We have a motion.
Second.
We have a correction on there. It
Okay,
says
hold on.
Marcia was here. She was not here. If we can take her off.
Okay.
Are there any other corrections or additions?
I make a motion to approve with the correction.
Motion's been
Leaving
made.
Marsha Williams off.
To approve with the corrections, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. At this time, we'll go into the Historic Zoning Commission and Common Design Review Board cases. Please remember that each side has 3 to talk in favor, 3 against, and then the applicant will get a 3-minute rebuttal if they wish.
All right, thank you. Couple of announcements first. Case number MSCD 10-2025, it's the second on the agenda, was withdrawn this morning. And then case DDR 4-2025 has been deferred until next month. So that case will come up next month.
Number 4.
Number
Correct,
4.
yes, sir, number 4 on the agenda. All right, first case today is MSCD 9-2025. It's the application of Joe Roberts with the agent of Bryce Powers. Reason for the request is construction of 8 new townhomes for property located at 180 Clay Ridge Drive. This property is in the Walnut Hill Liberty Parkway subdistrict of the Madison Street corridor. It is highlighted in blue on your screen. You have the Kroger Harbor Freight Shopping Center right next door across from Clay Ridge. As always, thanks to Mr. David Smith for all the images you will see from the air today. This is looking into the site with Madison Street in the foreground, Clay Ridge Drive running in between the Kroger Shopping Center and the Beauty Supply Center. And then the site, if you look to the right, is right behind the Beauty Supply store here. Here's one more shot, just kind of going around the site. This one looking directly into the site with Clay Ridge in the foreground and Maple Lane to the right. One more looking straight down on the site, which will lead into the site plan. As I mentioned in the description, it's 8 new townhomes, it's 2 quadplexes. We'll point out from here, Maple Lane, the front facades will be off Maple Lane. The driveway access into the garage of the units will be off of Clay Ridge. Yes.
Remind me again, why is this in the Madison Street?
It's a good question. My guess is they took the whole block here to round out the shopping center, similar to Meadow Hill Lane, or maybe not similar, where Meadow Hill's a full parcel. I think they kind of took the whole block and rounded it off with Maple Lane. The elevations for the site, these buildings will be all LP lap siding, and we'll have some LP shake in the gables. The top elevation is how it will be viewed from Maple Lane. The middle one is the rear, so it will be interior, and then the bottom are the 2 sides. It's a color selection for building 1. So each unit as it fronts on Maple Hill Lane will have its own separate color with its own accent color for the shake in the gables. And then on building 1, Summit Blue will cover the back and sides of each building. Building 2 Similar, each unit will be differentiated by its own color with some accent colors in the gables. Cavern steel will be on building 2 surrounding the sides and back. We'll point out in the staff comments, Madison Street guidelines call for minimizing the number of building exterior colors to 3. The staff is okay with this as proposed. It is 6 colors, but each unit is differentiated as it will front on Maple Lane, and the rest of the building will all be one solid color. Final comment, staff level site and landscape plan has been approved, so this is the last step. And I will answer any questions of the staff if there are any.
Any questions? Okay. So then we will open up the public hearing for case number MSCD 9-2025. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Bryce Powers, 46 Union Street. Here representing Mr. Roberts. This site plan got approved several years ago. Mr. Roberts recently bought the property from the previous owner, which is why this has been delayed to this point. And as Mr. Jones mentioned, we were kind of surprised it was in the Madison Street overlay as well, but here we are. And to Brent's comment, you know, these are going to be sold door by door. So we're trying to have a little bit of uniqueness on the front elevation. So, you know, one person's unit doesn't look just like the other person's unit, but we have provided that color connectivity on the sides and rear. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these townhouses?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, Bryce, thanks for putting windows on the side there. It's one of the big things we want to make on the side. Don't put any blank walls, so that's great. And thanks for showing people that you can front things to the road and have it rear loaded like this too. I think it'll be a good look out there in the community.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor? Please come forward. Anyone in favor? Would anybody like to speak in opposition? Anyone in opposition, please come forward. Okay, then we will close the public hearing for case number MSCD-9-2025.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries.
All right, as I mentioned, MSCD 10 was withdrawn this morning. Next case is DDR 1 2025. It's the application of Gracie General Partnership with the agent of Bart Klein. Reason for the request is the Joseph is a mixed-use development that includes 92 workforce residential units, 4,250 square feet of retail space, and modern amenities. The design thoughtfully integrates the Dunlop mansion using complementary brick veneer and limestone banding while incorporating contemporary architectural elements to create a cohesive connection between the new and existing facility. The owner will proceed with an application for the National Historic Registry for the original structure. This property is located at 517 Madison Street and was heard last month. The motion for approval failed. The applicant was given some guidance to make the mansion more visible in the renderings, some guidance on coming up with a stabilization or preservation plan. And then another comment was that it was too modern for the area. This is the Dunlop Miller House pictured on your screen from our 2020 historic survey, the Dunlop Miller House, 517 Madison Street, a Mediterranean-style house built circa 1917 by Joseph Dunlop, owner of Dunlop Mills. The next shot is just looking straight down on the property. This site plan and new building is the same as last month. It will kind of make an L shape around the current mansion, and it will offer a portal kind of view into the mansion from Madison Street. Looking at the site plan here, and landscape plan, again, it hasn't changed. I will point out this is an older version. The asphalt to the north here will be replaced with paver parking or pavers, just like the rest of the site internal there. This is one of the new renderings that was submitted. The Dunlop Mansion in full color. I know last month it was just shown as an existing buildings. I think there were some concerns regarding the preservation of it. Also from this slide here, we'll point out it is 5 stories along Madison Street and 4 stories along the sides. The data sheet for the project, as I mentioned in the description, 92 workforce residential apartment units, 4,250 square feet of retail space, 33 parking spaces on site, and 58 parking spaces at the sister property across the street. And some more renderings updated to highlight the Dunlop Mansion, the 2 on the right. The one on top shows from Academy Avenue, Madison Street view. Bottom right, again, same from Madison Street, and then an interior look in the bottom left. The new structure will be majority brick veneer. We'll have some fiber cement siding, and it will have an aluminum storefront. Point out too some limestone banding throughout to complement the Dunlop Mansion. Staff comments: in order for infill buildings to blend into the existing streetscape, their design should complement that of historic buildings and reflect the period of its construction and shall not attempt a reproduction of a historic style. The advisory building height for the area is 3 stories. Taller buildings may be appropriate at key intersections and for reasons of financial viability and to encourage greater property values per acre downtown. Building heights higher than the advisory height may be necessary outside of the local and national historic districts. The front yard setback should be based on the predominant setback of existing structures on the block face or across the street. Site plan and landscape plan approval is still needed. And the final comment: the staff feels this project meets the intent of the downtown guidelines and the comprehensive plan. And I will answer any questions of the staff if there are any.
Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing for case number DDR-1-2025. Let me remind you again, we have 3 people that can speak in favor of it, 3 people that can speak in opposition of it, and then a rebuttal by the applicant for 3 minutes if they wish. Would anybody like to speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Bart Klein, 22 Middleton Street, Nashville, Tennessee. We're the architects over at Joseph. So I'm going to build on to, what's going on here? I'm going to build on to the presentation. In blue, you have the proposed mixed-use building and the existing Dunlop in white and the carriage house, which remains. If you look to the downside, this is the pedestrian staircase from Madison Street that brings you up to the development, elevated courtyard to activate the space. Just because we have less time, I want to start with stabilization measures because that's what I was addressed in the last presentation. So it's important to think about this as an adaptive reuse project. You see that a lot. Adaptive reuse is when you have old historic structures that their use no longer works as intended because either the time has changed, the area changed. It takes new product and old product, brings them together and creates a cohesive end project. And so that's what this does. Very similar to what you see that was done across the street. This same developer built a 5-story residential structure. You had the old gas station, which was repurposed into the Amsterdam, which is done fairly successful, is my understanding. What's different about this project and that project is the stabilization methods will take place before a tenant is identified. So as they construct the mixed-use building, they will also address the stabilization methods under that same contract. And when that is done, a tenant will be brought in and they will do a tenant build out for that space once they identify a tenant. So everything from art galleries to recording studios to a restaurant or bar, we see as a good tenant for that space. This is a view of that pedestrian stair that walks up to the site. All the red circles identify the different stabilization methods that are going to be rooted in preservation methods. Everything from replacing and fixing fascia to tuck pointing masonry to cleaning up limestone, all those methods will take place because for this project to succeed, both buildings have to be well, or the project does not succeed. Another view, so this is kind of, if it was a restaurant and the patio was activated and all the different stabilization methods that would take place. Here's another view from the active courtyard, how you're activating the space. In this last slideshow, just to kind of talk in depth, there was conversation about being too modern. So at the scale of a building, you don't see the details that show up that really react to the local. So for instance, the limestone banding, which pays homage to the Dunlop Mansion. The Roxy that you have downtown, we have a bunch of brick insets that happen throughout the building on the brick veneer that also provides that level of scale. To the Law Building, to the left of us, the 3 brick roll-lock, which we're repeating on our cornice. So those are elements that we've tied into the building. So we're paying homage to the classical nature of the structures without, letting them stand on their own without replicating. In addition, we've added the 14-foot pedestrian sidewalk, and we got the signage that we've included to bring you off the street. And then from a more contemporary method, we framed the view with this elevated courtyard. So in our opinion, from an adaptive reuse, we've provided the best of both worlds with bringing in a modern project, linking it to the Dunlop Mansion. So I'll be here for questions later on.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Any questions for Mr. Klein? Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Klein?
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
The windows on the breezeway, are those real windows? Or they?
On right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions?
You mentioned 14-foot sidewalk. Are we talking about the one along Madison Street, or are you talking about the staircase?
The staircase is,
Okay.
let me go back to a site plan. This staircase is 14 foot wide. This sidewalk is 10 foot wide with trees. So we provide a very active streetscape. And there's retail, so you don't see it here, but dashed in red, that is all retail at that lower level to activate that street frontage.
And so it's a 10-foot sidewalk, and then the
Another 10
width
feet.
of the parking space, so it's
Correct.
20 feet off the existing curb line?
Correct. And so if you remember this slide from our last presentation, we went and did an analysis of all the buildings along Madison Street, where we fall. So we fall in this same color, that magenta color, and you can see there's precedence all along of the magenta color. In fact, there's precedence of the blue color, which is 0 to 10 feet right across the street from us. So we're not at one end of the spectrum or the other. We're right in the middle of what that street's doing from a streetscape standpoint.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name and your address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Bug Dellinger, President, Economic Development Council, 25 Jefferson Street. I want to speak in favor of the Joseph again this month. Since last month, I've learned more about the duties of this board, and I sympathize with your position. You have the tough task of shaping the future of the immediate and surrounding downtown of Clarksville. You're doing this as the area, the city, and the county are transforming right before our eyes in real time. All the while, you're concerned about maintaining our historical charm, our contributing historical buildings, and preserving our community character. Truly a position that requires careful consideration and guidance to future developers and investors. My charge is to help the existing businesses thrive with full knowledge and expectation that more residents are coming to the city and the county, that Austin Peay is growing, and more retail will immediately follow. I know that we currently have a deficit in apartments and housing, and my team and I are trying to attract more multifamily apartments into our downtown walkable core. Because retail successes follow rooftops, this project and others will help us build a more resilient and robust walkable commercial area in our downtown. This commercial area will improve the quality of life for current residents as well as future residents, as more retail options will consider an upgraded downtown because of an increase in density and population. I know that this project is expanding our collective vision on what we want our downtown to be, and it is your tough task providing the guidance and vision for projects like this. I stress that we need consistent feedback and a coherent vision so that investors and developers can have a reasonable expectation to obtain approval. As my team continues to recruit developers and investors to our city and county, and especially into our downtown core, I support this process to help the community repurpose unused or severely underutilized land into assets for the community and the municipality. These upgraded assets will produce more housing options, subsequently more retail options, and for the municipality, more taxes, both property and sales. This project, as well as several others that will be forthcoming over the next few years, will help us to build and transform our downtown into a more vibrant and active opportunity to live, work, and play while protecting our downtown attractiveness. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Dellinger? Let me got any questions? Thank you. And we'll have one more person to talk in favor. Please come forward, state your name and your address.
Ladies and gentlemen, Parker Wright, 2610 River Hills Drive, Clarksville, Tennessee. I'd like to talk about progress and opportunity today. Some claim Mrs. Willoughby's neglected 517 in order to demolish it. Let's be clear, that building sat vacant for 10 years before she bought it. Those making these accusations have the power to act, but they did nothing over the past decade. Now that someone is investing in our community and putting their money up, these other people want to block this progress. If they truly cared, why did they not act in the past decade? The building has sat empty. Mrs. Willoughby came to America from a socialist nation for a capitalist one and for the opportunities that are buried here in our country. She has contributed, yet some oppose her simply because she is an immigrant. Many racist remarks online have been made towards her about this project, such as "go back to where you came from," and other bigotry remarks, especially by Ms. Rudolph and her team of people that have made these comments. A true leader in this community would not promote such actions. They would just promote action to maintain our historic properties. Ms. Willoughby is not just a developer. She is a recognized leader in historic preservation. She received the Colonel John Montgomery Historic Preservation Award and a certificate of recognition from this very design and review board. Ironically, members of this board say that she cannot be trusted. But Mr. Gannon, in 2021, you signed a certificate recognizing that Mrs. Willoughby is a contributor to this community, and I hope that you will continue to recognize that she contributes to this community. Let's all remember that leadership means standing by what is right, not what is politically convenient, and here's the certificate from this board. The 517 project is a $27 million investment into downtown, into our labor markets. That's 92 housing units, retail spaces, economic revitalization. Contrary to false claims, Mrs. Willoughby is not demolishing 517. She is preserving it and building around it as a choice of her own. On her own dime, she is revitalizing 517 after she has bought it, and it is not in a historic overlay. She is preserving the building and building around it. By preserving the building and building around it, she is proving that progress and preservation can go hand in hand. This development will generate $315 estimated annual tax revenue and breathe new life into our community. The Willoughby family has already invested millions in Clarksville over the past 19 years, showing their dedication to our country's progress. Ms. Willoughby isn't just a developer. Her family has deep ties to service the community. Her husband, Joe, has served 30 years in our military, most of which was in special forces and in combat. The Willoughbys have positively impacted not only our community, but also our country. In a military town like ours, we should honor their contribution. The Willoughbys believe in Clarksville. We should believe in them. Most importantly, we're losing our young talent at an alarming rate. Austin Peay admitted less than 50% of our local graduating seniors from FY 23-24. Too many students leave for cities with more vibrant college campuses. I want to see that change, not just for our community, but for my daughters. And I want all of them, all of our children, to feel excited about staying in Clarksville for college, not forced to leave for better opportunities. In closing, design is like museum. Not every piece of art will be your favorite, but diversity makes things beautiful. Clarksville must embrace new ideas to thrive. This isn't just about buildings, it's about the future. I'd love for my daughters to stay in this town. Any questions? That's what I have for you.
Anybody got any questions?
I'd just like to make a
Yes, ma'am.
statement.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing that with us about what was said about Ms. Willoughby.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's sad that these remarks were made by such a group
Yes, ma'am.
who's pushing to block this. I think it's a beautiful building, but it does not represent, I don't think, this board or this council or what was said about her. However, I hope that this will go forward. It will make downtown look more make it look better.
Yes, ma'am.
And bring in more revenue, as you said. So thank you for sharing.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, now, is there anyone that would wish to speak in opposition? Please come forward, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm LaDonna Dowdy, president of Dowdy Roy Financial here in Clarksville, and owner of 2 historical homes in Clarksville, especially in downtown. If you know me, you know I believe in preserving the past while investing in the future. That's exactly what we did with 1202 Madison Street a few years ago. Built in 1900, it took patience, revisions, and multiple meetings with this review board, but through collaboration, we created the space that blends history with progress. Over the last decade, Madison Street has seen many properties restored, strengthening its role as the only historic gateway to our downtown Clarksville. The Dunlop Mansion, designed by the same architect as Nashville's Parthenon, is one of the last unrenovated landmarks in this corridor. As stewards of Clarksville's history, we must ensure the new development respects the character of these treasured structures. Clarksville's historic overlay zoning exists to ensure that any design complements the historic structures alongside it. The current owner of this property was well aware of what they were purchasing, given their prior experience restoring the city's first church building on Main Street, a structure that originally was intended to demolish. Through the process, they gained firsthand knowledge of Clarksville's zoning expectations and the city's strong commitment to historic preservation. That's why it's so concerning to me that the proposed apartment complex design does not reflect these principles or complement the architectural style of Dunlop Mansion. As we move forward, it is crucial that any new development, including the proposed apartment complex, respects and acknowledges the history of Dunlop Mansion and the properties alongside it. This is not just another old downtown building, folks. It holds historical significance that should be reflected in the design of the project. The new development should be complementing the existing character of the mansion. I am not here to oppose the progress, but to advocate for responsible and respectful development, just like what was expected from me a few years ago to y'all. When we renovated our office, you asked me to do a lot of things, and I adhered to those. By blending historical integrity with thoughtful design, we can create a future that reflects the strength of our past. Let's work together, adhere to the historic zoning guidelines that were put in place by our city leaders, and ensure Clarksville history not only survives, but thrives for generations to come. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions
I
for
have
Ms.
a
Dowdy?
question.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you connected with this board?
How am I connected?
Mhm.
I'm merely a Clarksvillian that's concerned about a historical building.
So you're not connected to the group?
I'm very involved in helping them with the group.
Are you a
Yes.
member?
I am,
You are,
yes.
okay.
As far as any negative comments, they have not been said, or I wouldn't be here as a person of,
Well, I didn't
of own
ask
as
you
a
that.
business
I didn't
owner,
ask you
would
that,
not
but
be
thank
here.
you. Thank you.
Okay,
Any other questions for Ms. Dowdy?
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dowdy. Would anybody else like to speak in opposition? Please come forward, state your name and your address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I think most of y'all know I'm Rudy Johnson, I'm a local architect, and I'm a second-generation architect, in fact. And I used to go down Cumberland Drive on my way to church from Monroe Street, where at least one of your members grew up as well. And on our way to Madison Street Methodist Church, and we turned left, and every time, every Sunday, my dad would say, that Miller House, he called it the Miller House. I never knew it as Dunlop Miller House until here recently. It's the crown jewel of Clarksville. And it is. And it still could be. And I went by and looked at it again this morning to see if it's fixable. And there's no question that it can. It needs some TLC. It's been 10 years without anybody doing anything to it. But as a young man, I was in that house, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times. And it had solid mahogany doors. I walk around it today, look through the windows, it's all padlocked, can't get in. but the doors don't look to be mahogany anymore. I don't know where those went. But I remember it had an elevator in it, and it was beautiful. And I'm thinking, this is luxury. And the Millers, Mr. and Miss Miller, they were eloquent people, and they took care of their property. And this building is too rich in history for it to be surrounded by, enveloped, if you will, by, modern architecture that doesn't blend in. And I don't know, and Mr. Dellinger asked me a moment ago, but I was on this board, okay? I was the founding architect on this board. So I don't know how many years I served, 6, whatever. I helped write those guidelines that Ms. Dowdy just referred to. But it was not I don't know how the building workforce essentials ever got built. Because it doesn't go with anything. It doesn't blend with anything. It belongs probably out in the Vulcan parking lot, maybe by itself somewhere. It's not in keeping with what our intent was. Our intent was to take care of and preserve homes like Mrs. Williams' home and her mother-in-law's home right next door to her there, and what Mrs. Dowdy has done with her building, and what the Drews have done with their house. Lots of people have done lots of things to gentrify the housing stock. Mr. Klein, I hate to speak against his design concept here, because his dad was my favorite friend as a practicing architect. Met a tragic death about 5 years ago. His dad and I probably worked together on 25 projects through the years. His dad would have never, ever proposed this design. And I am adamantly against it, and I recommend that y'all vote against the approval of what you see before you. Thanks.
Has anybody got any questions for Rudy? Mr. Johnson?
I do.
Nope. Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your information. You realized and you said that the building had been sitting there for 10 years, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
With nothing being done to it.
No, ma'am.
Is there any way you may have come up with some money or with this group to help get it refurbished or to buy it? Because I can see that there is good that's trying to be built downtown, a nice building. And Mr. Klein got up and said that they have kept with some of the architect within their building based on that house, which used to be the credit bureau in there and some businesses in there in that building, the old building. So is it anything you thought maybe the group or you could have done to save the building? Because we asked them that they have any money to help refurbish it or to restore it or to revitalize it. And so what would y'all do if this, fails? What would y'all do for the building if this fails?
First of all, let me just, as a point of order, say, y'all, I'm not part of this group.
Oh,
okay? I'm speaking as an architect.
But I thought
in
you
this
said you
meeting.
was the first person with them? Oh,
No, I'm not with them. I'm speaking against the design.
no.
All right, first and foremost. And I've done historic buildings all up and down Madison Street. And Mrs. Williams' mother-in-law climbed me many times about the health department, what was gonna come on there, and others about renovation of the Cumberland Bank building, the building just to the left of this house, where the attorney Stephen Gursky's office is, Madison Street Methodist Church, and the historic there. So, I'm into preserving the little bit of history that we have left. And this board initially's charge was, and again, I was part of it, was from 2nd Street to Golf Club Lane, and that's been extended. That is what's historic Clarksville, is from 2nd Street to Golf Club Lane. And, each of those people, and I've sat where y'all are sitting, and I've recommended against several projects. And not a single one of them, after they made the renovations that we recommended to them, not a single one of them didn't come back later and thank me for not letting them do what they wanted to do. Not one. Not even Mrs. Williams' mother-in-law. She even thanked me after it was over. but she fought me awfully hard going in. And so I'm just here as a concerned citizen. I sit on this board. I appreciate what y'all do. I'm glad I'm not on it anymore, you know. And I don't admire what y'all are having to do. But this is not what that house is intended to be. And I went around that house today, and that terracotta roof on it and on the carriage house out back will still be standing when we're all, and still be good when we're all dead and gone, and our children are dead and gone. The terracotta roof will still be there. Now, the walls around it might fall down under it, but the terracotta's gonna stay there. And that house has good bones, and it could be renovated. And it wouldn't be any worse than, and it's not any worse than the Cumberland Bank building was when we started the renovation of it. It had been a funeral home. It had been the Bank of Clarksville. And then Cumberland Bank came to me and wanted to renovate it and restore it to its historic nature. And we won an award by the state Tennessee Department of Environment and whatever, historic preservation. So I know about historic preservation, and I'm all for it.
Any other
But
questions?
this isn't it.
I have one more question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
You been an architect, and you know Mr. Klein.
I know him well.
So what would you
I've known him
recommend?
since he's a little boy.
What would you recommend? What does he need to do to this building to make it satisfactory? What is your expertise on it? What's wrong? What did you see is so wrong with it? I'm trying to.
Well, it's a historic building. It
No, I'm
doesn't
talking
need,
about the
it
new
doesn't
building.
need, this does not meet the design intent of what our regulations call for and what they called for when I helped write them back whenever this commission was formed. You know, it's a contemporary building. It doesn't belong on Madison Street any more than the Workforce Essentials building does belong on Madison Street. And I don't know who designed it, but it doesn't belong. And I don't know how it got there like that. My wife criticizes it every time we go by there on our way to church. So, but cornice is in good shape, the outriggers are in good shape, it's got good bones, you know, a little scraping and repainting, and a lot of what was done on the Cumberland Bank building diagonally across the street could be included into this. But what they've really done here is they've camouflaged the Dunlop Miller Mansion by putting something out in front of it. You know, it's not the focal point. It's kind of just an accessory to the property.
At least they're not tearing it down.
Any other questions?
Somebody will come along and spend the money and fix that house up because it belongs as it is. It was a crown jewel. It could be a crown jewel again.
Any other questions for
Thank
Mr.
you.
Johnson? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we got one more speaker. If anyone wishes to speak in opposition, please come forward, state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Rudolph. My address is 313 Hampshire Court. I'm not going to spend my very short 3 minutes addressing that I personally have said anything negative or derogatory about anyone in this process. What I would like to talk about is whether we all can agree that we love the design of the apartment complex, or whether we can all agree that we don't love the design of the complex is not the issue. This board, as I read chapter 9.5, this board is to look at the guidelines of 9.5 and decide what is important, what does fit, be it new construction, be it infill, renovation, or mixed use. All of the language you will read in 9.5 addresses any questions that you would have. And the one thing that is a continuous word that comes in these guidelines that we are to look at to make a decision is compatibility. When you infill a property, you're to be compatible to the adjacent building. When you look at a new construction in an area in the downtown urban design overlay, you are to be compatible. And compatible is in height, width, rhythm, style, architectural elements. My group is very interested in preserving our history. We're losing it time after time after time after time. We are absolutely not against growth. Growth can coincide with preservation. But we're talking about something that maybe has never occurred before, and we're talking about a 115-year-old home that is being proposed to be built on both sides and across the front with a very small opening, and it is correct, it's being camouflaged. That is nothing what 9.5 talks about. I have studied it and studied it and studied it because I didn't want to stand up here and sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm following the language that is here. Now, some of us might say the language might be a little loose, or maybe it doesn't mean at 517, but it is part of the downtown urban design overlay, and this is what we've got. Everything you will read on 9.5 says compatibility in architectural structure with nod to surrounding properties that are historic. Now, when it does also point out that if you have a property that's not compatible, that should not be considered. Very quickly, I did not get to mention, I appreciate the work that's being suggested for the Dunlop Miller House. My main concern about that is we don't know when that work will be done. We've not been given a timeline. It might be next month, it might be next year, it might be 10 years from now. And also, I would like to pass around where I've had Daniel highlight in orange our guidelines for our height in that specific area. He has circled 517 Madison Street. It tells you that the height should be no more than 3 feet. There is other language that says heights should never interfere with a historic church's spire. We've got St. Peter's AME Church 2 blocks behind that. And the Reverend Norfleet is concerned how this building will affect the look of his surrounding areas at a 155-year-old church. We also have an architectural design on the side of the property that will be completely torn up. It is a formal labyrinth garden that used to contain over 400 roses. This is drawn by an art student, and I will sit down. We can make this more compatible. We have the ability to ask for it to be more compatible. And I apologize for going over 3 minutes. It's just a whole lot. This is such a critical issue at a critical time. We've got to make very clear decisions based on our guidelines, whether we agree with them or not.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for Ms. Rudolph? Nope. Okay, Mr. Klein, you will have 3 minutes for rebuttal, sir.
Where's the Okay, so, I guess the first thing I want to say is the Dunlop Mansion is getting restored. I take a little offense to the architect. I've known him very well, but he actually reached out to us. We did most of the design work when we worked with them. Last thing we did with them was the jail in downtown. So I know him well. Rudy's a good businessman. I got a lot of respect for him. But my dad would love this. So the second thing is it's an adaptive reuse project. Your planning staff has recommended approval because they are the judgment over your planning regs and your regulations. They are the interpreting body. We meet those regulations on height, on property adjacency, on use. There's nothing to say that we don't. That's very important to distinguish. And then also on the preservation, so if we look at this slide again from a battling of how do you build a new development, there's been a lot of talk of we could do this, you could do that. It's been vacant for 10 years. I was over there today again. There's syringes in the house, the windows are down, the codes officials are finding the developers if they don't keep it closed up because people are sneaking in. And now we have an adaptive reuse project that's gonna breathe life into it again. Nothing else has happened. And the fact that we meet all the regulations, we're providing a adaptive reuse project, I believe that's going above and beyond. I feel like it's a good fit. And I've met with many of you individually, spoken individually on your comments. Some of you like the building, some of it's a little bit modern. You know, some of it's too close to the street. We've addressed how we're providing a walkable environment. You look at the buildings, I think when we look at this alone, and I had a slide early on that showed your whole downtown as it grows. You're gonna be dealing with this
Different setbacks.
forever, right? Every new project, every infill development is gonna deal with the old historic building or a building that no longer has a use that has to be re-identified and reused back into the building fabric. So how do you do that? You just stop development and then hope 20 years from now somebody picks it up? I mean, would a single family move into that house tomorrow and live there with their kids? Probably not. And really, when you get to the railroad tracks and you see the couple homes that, I know a lady come up here and compared us to her single, her home that was probably a law office or an insurance company. You can't compare that. That's totally uncomparable. So we're an empty site with the home. We could have demoed the house, didn't demo the home, integrated it into the design. I feel like the developer has gone above and beyond, worked with your guidelines, and has brought a respectable project to you. Any questions? And I can answer that all of the renovations to the stabilization will take place day one in conjunction with construction of our building. The same contractor will be contracted to do both. And before we get our UNO, our use and occupancy to use our building, the stabilization of the Dunlop will be complete. Is that my timer?
No, you still got 30 seconds.
Okay. So,
I started a little late because she meant a little bit longer.
yeah, I don't want to drag this on anymore. It's a great project. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Klein?
I have one. Will you apply for the 100-year-old historical marker for the home?
We will apply for the preservation and everything. We just can't commit and hold ourselves to it because we don't control those, but we are applying.
Okay.
It's in every benefit for us, for that project to be historic and stay.
Right.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions from anybody? I have one amendment. Well, yeah, okay. This time I'd like to close the public hearing for case DDR-1-2025. Is there any comments, concerns from anybody in here? I would like to make the same amendment. Well, let's get a motion.
I would like a motion to accept this DDR 1-2025 project as.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Properly seconded. Any discussion? I have discussion. I would like to propose an amendment, the same amendment that I did last time, that the historical registrations need to be seen by the Planning Commission, Regional Planning Commission, and if that ever defers or stops, then the site plan and the construction stops at the same time, as well as they will put up a placard or monument or statue describing the historical value of that house and things of that nature. Whether it gets on the National Register list or not, because that's a process, but a marker needs to go up there, similar to the church did one, and it wasn't on the national marker. Obviously, if it gets on the national marker, they have to redo another one, but there needs to be one regardless. So I propose both of those as one amendment.
Just for clarification. Okay, just for clarification, and we do have our attorneys
Yeah.
here. I've got, you want the historic, you mean the
Application.
National Register of Historic Places?
Yes.
Application to be seen by this board at some point before they begin construction.
And to be monitored along the way.
Right. Now, if they
And if
deny
that-
it, that's not up to the applicant.
If
That's
it's
up to the-
denied, that's a different thing, but if
But
there's
you
a
want them to start
failing
the
in paperwork.
process here
Right,
before they begin construction
Yes.
as a condition of the approval.
and let a marker go up.
And that a historical marker, which I think Ms.
And if
Williams
there's any
also mentioned.
delays of paperwork on their end, not by the National Historic, then site plan stops there as well.
Well,
If it's their error.
It's a condition
Yeah.
of getting a building permit, so it
Yeah.
would be, yes, okay. So
That's-
the condition would be to apply for National Register of Historic Places and agree to modify the plan to put the historical marker up.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And that's for the house only, right, in the back?
Yes.
Yes,
The old
yes,
house,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
I just want to be.
Is there a second?
Okay,
Do you,
thank you.
somebody second it?
Second.
The amendment's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries.
All right, that was on the amendment.
Now we're back on the motion
motion.
as amended. Is there any discussion on the motion as amended? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. And remember, if you're a no voter, that they've asked that we give our description of why we voted no. You don't have to if a yes, correct?
Only if it gets,
We have
only if
to.
it's the majority of a denial will I ask for additional
Okay.
information.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Two.
Chairs in doubt, please raise your hand. If you're in favor, please raise your hand.
Favor.
Okay, got 5. Or if you're opposed,
3, 4, 5, so it,
it's 5 to 5.
5 to 5, quorum would be a 6.
Motion fails.
I just want to confirm with my attorneys, nodding yes, motion fails for lack of majorities.
Majority.
like a vote.
Does the chair vote?
Yeah, the chair
I
can
voted.
vote.
Point of order, does the chair vote in,
I voted on that one. I made it 5 to 5.
I mean, does the chair vote automatically or only in case of ties?
In case of a tie. I thought
Hold
the-
on from the public. Regardless, the quorum is still 6
Yeah.
today, so we would still need to get to 6 affirmative votes.
Usually the chair can vote to make a tie or to break a tie.
You
We
can't
we
vote-
can pause, and our attorneys from the city are here, we can look through the bylaws, but I do believe it still
Mr.
falls back
Tindall,
to the quorum.
can you vote, Mr. Tindall?
No.
No.
But it's my understanding, Robert's Rules of Orders, chair can vote to create a tie or break a tie. But I can withdraw my vote regardless, because it doesn't make regardless of it, it doesn't make a majority.
Don't make it more complicated.
Yeah.
Mr. Tyndall,
Yes.
Explain the quorum rule. I thought quorum was amount of
I-
members present.
I'm looking
To
at the
make a
bylaws
quorum.
right now, and I encourage.
This is not
But the-
historic, this is downtown
Zach,
district.
Yeah, this
Hold on,
downtown
This is
district.
not in
Mind coming up
So
here?
the historic people can't vote. That's right.
Still not a quorum.
We're gonna take a 5-minute pause.
You got 5 voted for it.
Chair.
Yeah, I thought quorum was,
Referring to our bylaws under letter J, under voting, a vote of the majority of the members present shall be sufficient to decide matters for the commission to provide a quorum, provided that a quorum is present. Therefore, with a 5-5 vote and 10 people present, we would need 6 affirmative votes to pass this. Therefore, we believe this motion fails on the floor at this motion, or at this moment. Drew, did you get the votes for and votes against? Thank you. For those that were against, would you please raise your hand? Mr. Zeman, Mr. Shepherd, Mr. Smith, Ms. Longton, and Mr. Gannon. All right. Per our rules, it also states that we must give a redirection to the applicant, and I'm gonna ask every 5 of you to provide the reasons why you denied it and a way that the applicant would be able to make this more in line with the guidelines of chapter 9.5, starting with you, Mr. Zeman.
They did I've talked to several residents. Several of them sent me letters about their concern about this project and the density of the project, and that the focal point was not the home. And I did mention to the designer about the density. He described that the density would be a problem for him because they lowered the density, that they could not get their ROI. But I still believe that the project is too large. It hides the historical value of the home, and it doesn't fit in with the neighborhood the building next to it. It's just too large at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Shepherd.
I agree with what Mr. Zeman said, and I know that parking is not mandatory, but I believe the wording on one of these pictures that I got in the email said there were 92 residential apartment units, 16 existing parking spaces, 17 added to the complex, and 58 spaces available in the sister property. I'm assuming that that's the property across the street. That's not available spaces in that property. That's just 58 spaces. This morning, there were 48 cars in those 58 spaces at 5:05 when I counted.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
I have the same objections I had the last time after speaking with the architect, and I do appreciate his time. The building looks more like Workforce Essentials than it does to the building to the left of it, the attorney's office. It does not fit in with the feeling or just the ambiance of the downtown area. It doesn't feel like downtown. It feels like Workforce Essentials. And I agree with Mr. Johnson. I don't know how it ever got built, but it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be in that area. The other thing is I also have a concern about the parking. If you look at the plan, you're counting 7 charging stations as part of those, from what I've been told. You've got 17 at the front and the back of the mansion. And I understand there's 2 in the carriage house, but I don't see it. You're putting 6 cars out front on the street. You're looking across the street where cars are parked on the street already for the sister property. So those are my issues.
Thank you. Ms. Long.
I think the building is lovely, it's well-designed, but I don't like it because the property that we're talking about is a historic property, and you're covering it up. It doesn't, yes, you've got a hole there where people can see it, but we're talking about this building, and I agree with the parking. Maybe it's not in the guidelines that it has to be a certain number, but by golly, if I was one of the 92 people who lived there and I could never find a parking place, I would be screaming.
And Mr. Gann.
We are charged with preserving the history of Clarksville and the historical region. That is our duty, and that is why we're on this board. There's no other alternative other than that. That is your direction to do. I, too, drove up Cumberland Drive every day when I was, and I'm much younger than Rudy, but seeing that every Sunday when we went to church, came up Cumberland Drive. Saw it all the time. I'm very sorry that Mr. Terrell let it go for a year. We tried to keep on him. He had the Red Cross in there and other people. He just didn't do it. It was demolition by neglect, and we all know where that is. We've had many discussions on that previously, and we know from Ms. Willoughby being here and other historical buildings that subject has come up. I was the one that asked Mr. Klein to make the Dunlop Mansion, the Miller Mansion, colorful, because in the last design, it was only white. This, and I can see it, and I appreciate that, but when I look at that front view, again, it takes away from the significance of the historical building. And that is where my dilemma is. And I feel that should be a focal point, and that is the focal point of the property now, and should be maintained to some better degree to be more focal in it. I understand your ROI probably doesn't behoove that in order to cover up the front, but it is there. And we did turn this down a long time ago, the first time, and Ms. Willoughby still bought it, so she knew when she bought it of the condition that it was in after the first time that this case was turned down as well. And those are my reasons.
Thank you very much. Mr. Klein will get you a verbatim of that when we get the minutes typed up in a few days here. All
Okay.
right. Any other questions on the outcome there? Thank you for your patience as we reviewed the bylaws with the attorneys so that we could make a correct determination going forward, so we had a correct record of the actions here. Mr. Clemens, on to the next case.
All right, final case today is DDR 5 2025. It's the application of the Immaculate Conception Catholic Church with the agent of L. Gino Marchetti Jr. A reason for the request is owner respectfully requests the Common Design Review Board grant this application for the demolition of the improvements located on the subject property. See attached letter dated February 27, 2025 for property located at 631 Franklin Street. So this is the property in question. This case was before this board in September of last year. Deeds indicate that this structure was built in 1871. Our 2020 survey describes this as at the time of the 1981 survey, the owner was the trustees of Queen City 761 F and A&M Mason Lodge since 1961. This is a two-story brick original dwelling that became used as a Mason Lodge. It has a stone foundation, side gable roof of asphalt shingles with paired brackets in the eaves, and two interior end brick chimneys. The facade on the south has a one-story central entrance porch with a flat roof with dentils at the cornice and square wood columns and pilasters. To each side of the porch is a pair of arched 1/1 wood sash windows on the first and second floors. The west elevation has a porch similar to the facade porch. The rear elevation has a large addition of brick construction and a flat roof and a basement level. Further research, this structure was built by Michael Sullivan, who was an early mayor of Clarksville. He would serve 2 terms as mayor, although he met much resistance as a Catholic mayor. After Mr. Sullivan passed in 1881, the Leaf Chronicle had this to say about him. Mr. Sullivan was an influential and liberal member of the Catholic Church and the leader of the Irish element, a large and respectable portion of our community. He was a man of few words and not understood by everyone with whom he came in contact, but his judgment was to be relied on. Yesterday, we heard a gentleman remark that the poor of Clarksville lost a friend in the death of Mike Sullivan. That beneath a rough exterior, he carried a warm heart and few appeals for charity were ever made to him in vain. Some more shots, courtesy of Mr. Smith from the air, looking around this structure. Side shot, very easy to tell in this view the addition portion versus the original structure. The addition was added sometime after the main structure was built. And then one more shot looking straight down. Again, that addition, the white roof there, very evident and differential from the primary structure. So using Google Street View, the first image we're going to look at is from March of 2008. This is important. The church, our tax records indicate that the church purchased this property in 2007. We'll point out from this view, and it's a little hard to tell, but the ornamental window hoods were in place at that time. The paired brackets in the eaves were in good shape. The dentil cornice, all that seemed to be in good shape, and there were curtains in the windows at that time as well. Fast forward to 6 years after the church had purchased the property. This is May of 2013. Again, those window hoods still intact. The building still seemed to be in good shape at that time. Then May 2017, this is 10 years after the church had purchased the property. Those window hoods have been removed. Hard to tell from this view, but the paired brackets are in rough shape in the cornice area, and the structure starting to show some neglect at that time. And then this is September of last year when the case was heard, the current condition of that structure. Staff comments. Demolition of contributing structures is a board level function. The staff feels that this is a contributing structure significant in architecture and its association with Michael Sullivan an early mayor of Clarksville, and his importance to the Catholic Church. The next two bullet points are from the Secretary of the Interior Standards, which are in our ordinance. The historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features in spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. Finally, included in the material sent out on Friday was the structural engineer's report that was submitted last September, and the reference letter, and the letter that was referenced in the description by Mr. Marchetti. And the letter by Mr. Marchetti is also in your packets today, and I will answer any questions of the staff if there are any.
Any questions? Go ahead.
The letter from the attorney says that they're excluded from the downtown based on the nature of the purpose. Is there any way to get an answer if that's true or not?
Staff believes that demolition of contributing structures, so it lists board level functions and staff level functions. That a demolition of a contributing structure is a board level function. That's spelled out. And the staff feels that this is a contributing structure.
Right.
So it should go to the board.
Just to kind of play off that, if you all feel this isn't a contributing structure, I think it's your right to tell us it's not a contributing structure, redirect us, and then approve for the demolition. But anytime it comes up to a point where we have a question on it being a contributing structure or not, we're going to err on bringing it to the board.
But this would apply to residential and/or commercial or whatever.
Correct.
Yes.
Similar to the
To answer his
Belmont
questions. Yep. Any other questions for Brett? Okay. We will now open the public hearing for case DDR-5-2025. If you'd like to come speak in favor, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. State your name and your address. And we will allow 3 people for and 3 people in opposition, as well as a rebuttal for the applicant at the end.
Good afternoon. My name is Antonio Aguilar. I'm from Gino Marchetti's office, and here representing Immaculate Conception Catholic Church of 709 Franklin Street. I appreciate staff presenting certain photographs on your screen, but I'm going to hand out these photographs that were contained within the report so you can see get an idea of a more current condition. And you're welcome to pass these down. There's just 3 sets you want to share. I'd like to point out one quick thing. There was an interesting comment at the end of the last presentation about the function of this board. On section 9.5 of the ordinance, government officials, property owners, developers, design consultants, and other stakeholders will use this section to prepare improvement plans that are consistent with the downtown design standards and guidelines. Something that should be noted in our particular case is the last sentence of that section that reads, "Nothing in this section shall be construed to prevent the construction, reconstruction, alteration, or demolition of any such elements which authorized city officials shall certify as required for public safety." And in the pictures that you see before you today, and I appreciate the history that staff went through for this particular structure, there are 2 improvements that consist of 2 adjoining buildings. The main building, which we believe was constructed in the 1890s, and the second building, which is the addition that was used by the Knights of Columbus. While some may argue the main building contributes to the historic or architectural character of Clarksville, Immaculate Conception is of the opinion that its application for demolition should be granted to ensure the public safety and welfare of Clarksville citizens. I had an opportunity to inspect the property recently. My father was a DEA agent for 28 years, and there was a waft of an illicit substance in the air. There's a lot of neighboring buildings there. Glass has been broken into. It's obviously a structure that invites more bad than good. And in my opinion, as an attorney for the Catholic Church, I think in this day and age, we need a little bit more church in our society, and that goes for any municipality throughout the state of Tennessee. I previously had the pleasure of representing a neighboring municipality, and this neighboring municipality was not foreign to litigation. So for fear of stating the obvious, we do note in our letter that Clarksville's ordinance requires that a property shall be used for its historic purposes or be placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the characteristics of the building. That can be found in section 9.5.3, subsection 1C2. Given the extensive dilapidated condition of the main building, the church will not be used as a residence as it was up until 1962. Further, the main building is not contributing as a commercial use to the extent it is not pulled up to the sidewalk, is not close in proximity to an adjacent building, and does not have any clear storefront. I'll be glad to answer any questions that this board may have.
Anybody got any questions?
I just have one. And this kind of, you're saying that you were in the house today and there were a lot of illicit materials and everything like that. As the owner of the building, isn't the church responsible to secure that building?
The church has secured the building. Unfortunately, this was a window that was broken on the other side, not visible to the church immediately, so they are in the process of boarding it up. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. Has the church done anything in the way of restoring the church or anything like that on the upkeep? Have they done anything since day one?
I think the pictures demonstrate that the upkeep was there for quite a few decades, but there's a church representative here today, Lisa Meeks, who's the business administrator, and I'll be glad to turn that over to her when she comes up to talk in favor of this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name and your address. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name's Lisa Meeks. My residence is 2072 Roxbury Lane here in Clarksville. I was born and raised here in Clarksville. My daddy was game warden for 35 years. My mom worked at First National Bank. As a matter of fact, I still have letters that came off the original First National Bank building that was on Franklin and 2nd Street in my garage today. I love the history of Clarksville. I've got lots of books from Ursula Beach. I've gone through and looked at these books. You know, this is not the first mayor's residence in Clarksville that has had to be demoed. So I understand the significance because Mr. Sullivan, he was also a member of the Catholic Church. The Irish Masons that was referenced at one point, they did build our church. Our parish has 2 buildings that are on the National Historical Register. We're currently undergoing a capital campaign to keep the preservation of these buildings alive because that is a very expensive task. The property that, when we acquired the property, we acquired it from Coy Baggett and Jack Turner. When we acquired the property, we had no intentions of restoring or using that building in the future. It's not our problem, it's not our fault that the city of Clarksville, the commissions, the county, hasn't come forward in the last, 20 years to have anything on some of these properties. You know, we've never been notified that we couldn't demo that building until we came to get a demo permit. Yes, there were pieces taken off of that building years ago, long before I came along into the picture, but that was because the purpose was always to demo that building. So, you know, there are other buildings. I mean, I think that even our governor's house at one point was demoed. So the basis that this was a former mayor's house and the cost that it would take the Catholic Church to repair this house, you know, I'm asking for some consideration of what is best for our community. We do have the opportunity, we do have goals of moving our school to the downtown property. It's currently on Madison Street. So we would like to look at, we're working on a strategic footprint for our property. And that piece of property is very, very big in the footprint of our future. So the house, the structure, the residential structure does not fit for a school or any type of usage that we need the property for, and it wasn't purchased for that reason. Thank you. Yes.
Any questions?
What's the intended purpose that you're looking for the property down the line?
Okay, so at this point, it depends on what we're allowed to do with the property.
Sure.
Because we do have a school building that we're looking to place on that property. And we do have some, when we do that, we have an activities building, we have some other structures. So right now, we are looking at the footprint, overall footprint, to determine where these buildings will be able to go. Also, Jack Turner does own a piece of property, he's a parishioner that is adjacent to the property that's under discussion. That is an opportunity for us in the future to also expand there as well.
Any other questions for Ms. Meek? Kirk?
I just wanted to follow up on her question to your attorney. What process have you done to kind of, over the years, and I know you probably haven't been there the whole time, but what's been done to try to rehab the house and maintain the house since 2008 when it was purchased?
I do not have knowledge of
Any of
anything that's
that?
been done.
Okay.
I know it was in disrepair internally. We have never, since the church owned the property, we've never been able to use the front portion, which is the Sullivan House. We did use the back portion. It did have some water damage in the back portion, and it is full of mold at this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Meek? Thank you, ma'am. Would anybody else like to speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes. Anybody else that would like to speak in favor? Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition? Please come forward, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name's Brenda Hartford. I live at 503 Lisa Court in Clarksville. I would like to make one correction. Based on our county historian and other local researchers, we're convinced, satisfied that the house was built in 1871. We do know that the property assessor's records show 1890, but we have reliable proof that it was built earlier than that. After Mike Sullivan, it became the home of a prominent tobacconist, Benjamin F. Gill. He lived there in 1886, and then on until the early 20s when it became occupied by his daughter and her husband. They lived there until the late 50s. She was one of our local suffragists, and her husband, Dancy Fort, was a member of the Tennessee General Assembly. He was the state commissioner of taxation and finance, and then a circuit court judge from 1936 to 1952. So there is more history than just the presence of Mike Sullivan, who was also the builder of the house, but all of those things are important in terms of its history. During the years it was occupied by the Queen City Lodge, I'm assuming, I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming that's the time of the addition was put on. And then, as was said, the church purchased it in 2007. During that time period, from 2007 to now, certainly the years were not kind to the house. I can't attest to what condition it was in at the time they purchased it. They were saying it was already in bad condition at that time. One of the concerns this raises for, I think, the whole community is that it is possible that folks can buy a historic property and never be fully notified of the implications there may be of the overlays or other restrictions that apply to that. And perhaps they were not notified of that when they purchased the property. But at any rate, they bought it when it was in bad condition and continued to allow it to deteriorate. So at least part of the problem is of the owner's own making. We do have reports from people, I do not know this personally, I have no personal knowledge of it, but that many of the architectural details were cannibalized, were taken out of the house and off of the house and sold, including the interior staircase. So if the condition is as bad as it's stated today, though, this home is yet another tragic example of the lack of adequate maintenance standards and effective enforcement of those standards in our community. This applies to both the city and the county. We have few precious historic structures still standing, and we do need to have better requirements that when there is poor maintenance, there is some intervention, there is a violation. So that's one of the things I think we should take from this situation is we really need to make some differences there. We need to work as part of the rewrite of our current overlays
to make sure that those protections are stronger. There is enforcement behind the codes. There is adequate staff in the codes department to take care of that. But I really urge you as members of the board to advocate for those kinds of improvements in our regulations and in our codes enforcement. But as of one of only 40 surviving structures built in 1871 or earlier in this entire county,
Please wrap it up.
this house deserves to have been protected, and repairing the exterior and keeping it weather-tight is the necessary minimum for its protection. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
I do. Do your group have any money to help restore this house?
We have no more money than we told you the first time you asked the
I don't
question.
remember
We do
what
have
it
a little
was.
more money, but
But the
no,
first
we are
time I
not,
asked you-
we are not able to restore the house, and if we were able, we're not the owners of the house.
I
So,
know, but you're fighting to keep it up.
well, we're fighting for the guidelines and regulations to be followed, that owners should protect and preserve their historic properties. And there's got to be a consequence at some point. You can say, the owner before me didn't take care of it, and so it's okay that I didn't take care of it too. But that can't be the answer for all of our properties over and over again.
Any other questions?
Now I'll leave it there. Ain't gonna say.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. I mean, opposition, I'm sorry.
Opposition.
It's been a long day.
Yes.
Maybe I'm the last one for the day.
Maybe.
I'm Louisa Beach Cook. I live at Thayer Lane, Clarksville, Tennessee. My grandfather was Oscar Beach, and he lived at 512 Madison Street, right across from Dunlop Miller House. And his wife was Ursula Beach, the county historian. And one of the books that she published with Eleanor Williams is this one, and it's called 19th Century Heritage, Clarksville, Tennessee. And any house or building that is, the term you all are using, contributing, is in here. And that means, in our minds, I think the definition of contributing means it's important historically. And they're in here. A lot of these have been taken away by Mother Nature. A lot of these have been left to fall down by demolition, by neglect. Various things have happened to them. And as Brenda just told you, there are only 40 left out of what used to be a beautiful old downtown. Please don't let any more go away. So I'm a member of the newly organized Montgomery County Preservation Coalition. We have an email listing of about 300 people that are interested in what we're doing. We hold meetings periodically to try to talk about how we can save some of these old structures. We don't have any money, but we're working on it. We can't save these houses ourselves. We don't own them, but we want to be a strong enough organization that we can help people help themselves. People who are interested in these homes, people who want to keep these homes and keep Clarksville heritage alive, I'm hoping will come to rely on us as a resource. If we can't pay for it, maybe we can lead them to grants, lead them to other ways that they can help protect their own homes. You know, we don't want to save these abandoned houses just so the druggies can get in there. And I don't know if y'all heard the podcast that somebody suggested that's what we were doing, saving the abandoned homes just so the druggies will have a place to go. Well, no, that's not really our goal, obviously. But there's no denying that that happens. Well, if the homes weren't broken windows, broken glass, things not boarded up, available, then the druggies wouldn't be able to get in there in the first place. So I maintain that this house needs to be saved. And perhaps the Catholic Church can find something else to do with it. Maybe they can sell it, maybe they can, I don't know what, rent it. But to tear it down just to make it be a parking lot when they're not sure what they want to do with it is not the best use of a contributing older home in Montgomery County, Tennessee. So please, think about the vision of Clarksville in the future that includes the past. Don't let the past just be wiped away with the tornadoes.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Cook?
I got a comment I'd like to make. And thank you for sharing that you would like to become a resource. That sounds better, to help the people to keep the historical. I appreciate that.
We're just getting started. We got a lot of learning to do.
Right. And I understand what you're saying, but I know you don't want it towed down. And the church people have come forth and made their plea as to why they need to tear it down. And so if you don't have the money to help, I don't know what else to say, but thank you.
Okey dokey. At this point, we have a rebuttal for three.
One more against it.
Oh, we have one more again? I thought we had.
You only supposed to- I thought it was on.
Ms. Rudolph went. Okay, we got room for one more. Would anybody else like to speak in opposition? Please come forward. So when Ms. Rudolph?
Here she comes.
Okay, that's where I'm confused. Please state your name and your address. And you'll have 3 minutes, ma'am.
My name is Phyllis Smith. I live at 719 Green Valley Court, and I'm a historian. And I sit here every time something like this comes up. And they say, oh, it's too expensive to repair it. We need to have it torn down for safety. And then I hear somebody ask, you have enough money to repair it? When you buy an older home, you don't just get a piece of property, you get an obligation to maintain that property, to maintain that piece of history if it is a historic house. When you buy a historic house, you know that perhaps it's going to be more expensive to maintain it. And when you don't do that, you're negligent. And quite frankly, as a citizen of this city, this beautiful city, I don't accept that, oh, now it's too expensive to do it. If you had done it all along for 20 years, it wouldn't be that expensive. And I'm tired of people saying, we've got to tear them down. We do a certain extent of depending on tourism here. You destroy all our old buildings because the people that buy them can't be bothered to maintain them. We're going to look like every other place. And why would people come here? Thank you.
Any questions?
I got something to say.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Miss Phyllis. We're on the same board together. I love you. But you're right. I know what you're saying. People are responsible to take care of what they built. But as I was doing some research the other day, there are a lot of seniors, and I know that's a church, but I don't know if it's a small church or a big church, and they just probably didn't have the money. And I'm for historic, don't get me wrong. But the thing is this, there are thousands of seniors who can't even afford to put a roof on their house today. They living with holes in their roofs where water is coming in. And I understand what you're saying, don't tear it down. But how do we help these people who are suffering today that can't even put a roof on their house? And it's leaking inside of their homes. And so I don't know if the church is small or too small to, provide the money. I don't know what happened during that time frame where it just went down. But I hear you, but do we let it just stand there and just continue to rot, or what do we do?
I think that we do our job and we enforce the codes that say you have to maintain the building. Exactly. I understand that if you want to bring a building back, it may cost quite a bit of money.
Right.
But why did you buy the building in the first place?
Probably they was trying to save it, but didn't realize they couldn't.
Well, when they realized that they couldn't save
Is there
it,
questions?
then you need to find somebody to buy it.
Just like we buy homes and we can't afford to keep them up.
We need to
when
ask
we get
questions,
older.
please.
Yeah, just like we buy homes, I'm responding to her question. Just like people buy homes and they cannot afford to keep them up. So,
Then they sell
income
them.
problems. Well, they gotta have somewhere to live, so you don't wanna put them outside. It's probably better to live in a house, have a half a piece than nothing at all, okay?
But this
Have
is
something,
not
I don't
what
know.
we're talking about here.
I know, but that's an example. That's an analogy of what I'm trying to,
Comparing
my
apples
point.
and oranges, ma'am.
Yeah, I know, but you got churches and houses versus people who cannot afford to pay.
You're
So I'm
still
through.
apples and oranges.
Anybody else have a question?
Doesn't matter.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
That time, we've had 3 in opposition. The applicant gets a rebuttal for 3 minutes. Please come forward.
So again, I respect that we are trying to preserve the history of Clarksville. The books that we have that show that show the buildings in Clarksville and the history of Clarksville, that's certainly one way to preserve the history of our city. I wish that this building were in a different, I wish we were having a different conversation about this building, but the facts are the facts. I was not involved in what happened when we purchased this building. I've not been involved in this building until the last 2 years. I don't know how many of the members of this commission here have been involved that long, but if you have, then that responsibility falls on this commission as well, because we have never had anyone approach us to tell us that we're not going to be able to tear that building down. When we acquired that building, again, from Coy Baggett and from Jack Turner, it was acquired for us to have an opportunity to grow our parish, to have a future, some property to build on as our parish grows. We have a residence. We have a residence on our property right now that we use for our pastor. It's on the National Historical Register. We don't need another residence. We need a school. We need other facilities to grow our parish. So again, I wasn't involved in it then. I don't know who was involved back in 2007, but when we purchased the property, if we had been informed and instructed of what the guidelines were and what was expected for us to maintain this property, we wouldn't be sitting here today. But we weren't, so we are sitting here today. It's not only our responsibility, but it's the responsibility of our city and our county to make sure that these buildings are maintained if that's what this commission wants. Again, it is a safety issue. We do have boards on it. We have no trespassing signs. We survey that property almost on a daily basis. We have a large homeless population that utilizes our parish. And we are not only having to keep them out of a vacant building, but also out of our main church. So when we have a boarded facility right there, a boarded building, that's going to be the first place that people go. And, you know, we are doing the best we can to keep it as safe as possible, but we do not have the funds for a multi-million-dollar project to restore that building when we have no use for a residential structure in our footprint, our strategic plan for the future.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am. All right. Okay, now I'd like to close the public hearing, DDR-5-2025. Is there any questions or motions? Anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to disapprove the demolition.
Motion's been made to disapprove the demolition. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor of not allowing the demolition, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
You have 6 votes.
Seven.
Do we need to,
That's fine. Good enough.
okay, do we need to say why it's like a no vote for the
No,
motion?
it's not a design review.
It's not a design review? Okay.
We don't need to.
Okay, so for the ones that voted no, let's start on, who voted no?
Why would we do that?
Hold on.
when we
Let our
don't-
attorney examine.
Yeah,
Y'all did a motion to disapprove that's ultimately the same as a motion to,
motion to approve the
motion
voted
to
no.
approve it failed, so people voting yes to disapprove, if you would,
need
please
to
give your
say.
reasons.
Right.
Here we go.
Let's start with Bert. Who voted yes on that motion?
I believe the only two I heard had no was, yes, Mrs. Smith and.
Okay, so if you voted yes, state your reason why you voted yes for the
I didn't
demolition.
vote yes.
Okay,
Were no
I voted
vote?
no.
You voted no?
let's do this again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Wait a
restate the
minute.
I only
motion.
heard two, but.
I
Yeah,
did
let's
too.
restate the motion. The motion was, restate the motion,
We
please.
have a motion for disapproval by Marcia, seconded by Mr. Smith.
To deny, to
To disapprove,
A d- motion
No,
to
what-
disapprove.
No,
approve the
no.
demolition.
No, that's not what I said.
to
She said-
disapprove the
Disapprove the
demolition.
demolition.
Yeah, disapprove demolition.
So you're looking for guidance from people who voted in
Hold
the
on, let's make
affirmative
sure we
to
got the vote
disapprove
correct, 'cause
the
it doesn't
addition.
sound like we have the vote.
I don't think we
correct.
have the vote.
The motion is for disapproval, so an affirmative vote. So if you vote yes, you agree it should not be demolished at this point. If you vote no, it's in the opposite. That's how it's been stated here.
No
This
means
is-
you vote for the demolition.
Correct, so
So those in favor of the demolishment, in favor of the motion?
in favor of the
To
motion.
disapprove.
Not to demolish.
Listen, listen,
Not to
not to
demolish.
demolish.
I got you.
Yeah,
Should just make another motion.
no.
No.
Please raise your
Okay,
hand.
you want, can we start over?
The motion to not
The motion is for
disapproval of the demolition.
disapproving
Yeah.
of the demolition, so no demolition.
Yes to demolition.
Yes, okay.
How about let's
yes.
just do this?
Uh-huh.
Let's just say that. Yes demolition, no demolition. Let's just do a voice vote down the line. Then there's no
Okay.
confusion.
No
Verb
to the
said
demolition.
yes to demolition,
No to the
no to
demolition.
demolition.
No to the demolition.
No to the demolition.
Yes to the demolition.
Yes to demolition. No to demolition.
No to demolition.
No to demolition.
No.
Okay. So I have 3 for demolition and 7 no demolition. Okay.
It's
Now,
fast.
And now you want
What?
for those
comments
who
from the
stated
no
no
demolition.
demolition,
They have to say
please
why.
state.
Stating why?
Yes.
I believe this is neglect, and so we've talked about this before, and so I just can't see my way. I feel bad, I really do want them to repurpose the property, but I think we have to be consistent with what we do for all properties, so.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm tired of people wanting to tear down buildings because they don't keep them up. If they bought this building in 2007, that's 18 years.
David?
I think if you go into if you're gonna buy a building, you need to do your homework. You need to know what the guidelines are and what, if you plan on demoing this building, when you buy it, that's one of your main reasons for buying it down the road, then you should know what's gonna be, what that's gonna entail. You know, what are you gonna have to go before? You know, it may not be approved, so that's why.
Well, this could be, I would suggest, like some others have done, is to try to do adaptive reuse. Maybe the school they want to build could build around it. Although there were, the same group that wants it not torn down was against adaptive reuse, but, well, that's another question. You know, the historic, the design overlay, we deal with the exterior of the building. The interior of the building could become a shell. It could be the atrium to enter the new school building. You know, there's a lot of ways you could preserve the historic look of the house and develop a new building around it. And I would hope that if they decide to do something like that for the school, we would grant them approval when they come back with those plans.
I voted for it not to be demolished because when you buy an old property like that, I think to be a good steward of it, you need to maintain it. There's been nothing to maintain this building. It's a beautiful building. I've walked by it many times. It's a shame it's in this disrepair. Everything is repairable because I know I live in an old house. So that's my reason. And it is contributing historic home in Clarksville.
I know they say they bought it to demolish it, and that someone should have told them they couldn't, but who buys property in order to demolish it? I can't imagine that someone would say, oh, remember, if you're gonna buy this, you can't demolish it. So, and it's a historic home, and it doesn't need to go away.
I am a member of the Immaculate Conception Church, so this bothers me more than anything else because I know that the building is old and everything else. However, we just had a case before us that had the same type of thing, and I can't vote one way and not the other way. This house has been here since 1890. Whenever you found that out, you should have known it had historical value in it. Mr. Baggett or Mr. Turner should have told you the same type of thing. With the history in it, you have to know there's historical value. If not, you're not paying attention, I guess. I don't know how to answer that.
And
But
the
if-
downtown district, the DDP predated the tornado. So if this
I
was
know.
bought in 2007, there should have been something with the realtor who sold them that noticed that this is in a design
I
overlay
agree.
district.
I agree with that. They should have been told by the realtor. So,
Just
but
for-
because
Just
I-
for a point of information there, it was right after the tornado.
Right.
But it was still before 2007.
But
Main Street predated the tornado.
having the previous case as well with the Dunlop Miller thing, I have to stay consistent and vote the same way. I'm sorry.
Right. Thank you, members. Brent, does that conclude our work for today?
May
It
I-
does.
May I bring up a discussion?
Yeah, all right.
We,
May we bring up a discussion point?
Yeah, sure.
we have time
We'll get to
for-
the other business, wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
time for
All
member-
right,
for
so now we
member
go into
comments.
other business. Kurt?
We've got a lot of homes and everybody's been complaining and we have this conflict, right? And then somebody loses here every time. Is there a way for us to, to make sure people are aware of the consequences and then put some teeth to the consequences here? Is it a recommendation that we have to do to another board, or what do we need to do to help basically keep, because it's about expectations here and everybody's falling short of their expectations and everybody's disappointed.
There are some members of the city code department here, so I know they've heard everything that's been said today. I don't think they'd want to come up and say anything at this time.
Okay.
I'll give you an opportunity if you want to. I think there's a lot to digest, but we are, Kurt, we're going through a rewrite of the design guidelines and the historic guidelines. A lot of it will start to hinge on demolition by neglect and working closely with our code counterparts to see what can be done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And we've been involved in some of those discussions with
Right.
writing the regs and stuff. So hopefully that takes care of a lot of demolition by neglect. That's the goal.
It will require enforcement.
Yeah.
Yes, enforcement.
Any other business?
I agree with him that the people who do buy these homes that are historic need to be notified and know about the guidelines. So I think we do need to do something to make sure these people know.
That's being redone in the guidelines that we're.
I think building and codes is responsible.
All right. Is there anyone here that wishes to make any public comments? Going once, going twice?
The gentleman who is no longer here made a comment, the third one speaking.
Come to the microphone, please.
Don Sharp. The comment that this group, the people who stand up for preservation, have been making negative comments about Miss Willoughby. I've met with this group for about a year and a half. I'm a member of that group. Not once has a negative comment been said about Miss Willoughby. We don't like two monster structures and how they look, but we are not commenting about her. And Ms. Smith, your continuous comments about this group and whether we are valid. I guess I'm all right to take a little offense at the continuous comments questioning the validity of this group. I can tell you, I've been standing up for historic preservation for 30 years. It's a very good group. And we're doing good, okay? And that's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you, sir.
Any other comments? Any other public comments?
Jennifer Rudolph again, general public comment. There have been lots of people in Clarksville, Tennessee before us that do value history and preservation of properties. We are new at this, but I can guarantee you we are doing everything we possibly can to research, to talk to other communities, in other states. We're about 25 or 30 years behind most of the people I speak to, but we are doing everything that we possibly can, and we want to help. We want to help these older properties. I just got Mr. Aguilar's business card. He represents the church. I want the church to know we will do everything we possibly can to look for grant money for them. We are willing to do that. We're not against the church. We can find money. If we can't find it, we'll go out and ask for it. We've got a lot of people in this community that care about our history and our preservation. We are committed, and we're not going anywhere. If we have to raise the money ourselves, we'll do it. We'll make a stab at it. We'll call anybody and everybody we possibly can. We want to help. We don't want to hurt.
That's a good attitude to have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? We're allowed 3. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.